I saw people in the weird. There you go. Hello.
Hello.
So I will close this one and log in. Google. I think I used last year I used my KTH account for Figma. There you go. Yes, this is my project from last year. Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hi. We start in 2 minutes, so don't worry about that. We start on time. Definitely need to remove this one. This one.
Vänta, va? Ett företag som heter Random Forest kontaktade mig.
Oh, I'll send you the link. Just give me 1 second. Link and copy it. No, let me just. This is one. We are about to start. Just let me send the link to CC. Just 1 second. There you go. So welcome everybody to the lecture, the optional lecture number 1, introduction to user interface design using Figma. Luckily, there is no slides at all for this one. It's just all about the content. So let me leave this page. And as I told you during the morning, I hope that you started to create your account so we can just dive in directly inside the app. But before we open the app, let's explain what is important for a front-end developer to have the basics of UI design. Even if you're working for a company where the designers take care of the design, learning about the basics of this craftsmanship is super important to improve your attention to details. Like there's a big difference between front-end developers and back-end developers. Back-end developers focus on interacting with the databases. They focus on handling large-scale operations, handling data. They don't care about the presentation at all. Front-end developers are the other way around. We don't care how the data is stored. We just call for the data and then we organize it in a nice way. So we really need to care for and attention for details and how to make the information look visually pleasing and most importantly, understandable on the screen. So that's why we need to know at least the basic of graphic design. So we understand and can communicate way better with our designers. So we can create a product that our users actually can utilize at the fullest. And I want to showcase a really nice example of this kind of applications. This is another program, but called Sketch, but this is exactly the same thing that's Figma. It's just a different program. I use it just because I get used to. But this is where you are gonna work with a designer. This is called a template system. And a template system is just a bunch of files and graphic elements that allows to have a really nice coherent design system, design across your projects. For example, people have said that the slides have a nice look. The reason that the slides have a nice look is because they complement each other, the website of the SDA and the SDA app itself. So everything feels cohesive, like it's part of a single brand. So you create that by creating first a graphic, a design system. And let me show you a real example of a design system done for KTH. Just give me 1 second. And Dropbox, KTH, data, Paso courses. For example, this one is for a startup. Let me see, run your company. I think it's this one, brand Bible. There you go. So this is what I mean by creating a design system. Oh, guys, we're on like yeah. So this is what I meant by creating a design system. It's basically create a brand, a presentation, not necessarily a PowerPoint. It can be any kind of file where you define the logo type, the application of your logo type, the fonts. It's not about picking fonts at random. This is the work that a graphic designer or an interaction designer starts to do before we start even coding the projects, just to start thinking about how everything will coexist. And if you feel that these colors are similar to the SDA, yeah, there is probably a reason. It's probably the same designer behind the scenes. Same with the icons, and to be honest, same with basically everything. But the illustrations are different, a little bit different this time around. So starting by that, and the next step in creating a design system is to start working on the graphical elements. And this is where you start working to define. It's not about coding your web page and then start adding the CSS like we did today. It's actually the other way around. You first start with the design, and then you say, okay, on mobile, my heading will have this particular font size, this particular style. My subheading or heading level 2 will have this particular style. And you can see this application on the SDA page all the time. For example, I open the SDA web page, you can see that our major titles has this particular style, and our subtitles have this particular style, and then the subtitles has this particular style. So that's why when you start browsing around the page, everything has a cohesive look, and this look is shared across even to the PowerPoint slides from the SDA. It's no coincidence. It's a design system created beforehand. And let me close this one. And that's how you start to do work. Well, the question is, how do you do that? How do you create one design system or learn how to work in these applications? Well, you can create one either using a Sketch or Figma. In this case, we're going to learn how to use Figma because it is free. So that's the most important reason to use it. And it's a really nice step to lower the entry barrier for this kind of software. Then, if you are really into front end and you want to become a freelancer or a person that can do not only the front end coding, but also can do the design, then you can start thinking about, do I want to spend money to learn a more advanced tool, like, for example, Adobe XD or Bohemian Coding Sketch? Yes, something that you can do later. But for now, just to learn the very basics, Figma is more than enough. It's a really good program, so I can actually recommend it to use it. So let's start doing that. As soon as you create your Figma account, go to the top right of the screen and create a new document. Just let's wait a little bit until it loads. And this is our screen. So we're gonna start creating a quick prototype for the mobile version of the SDA. With interactive links between each other. So yes, in this tool, we can actually start creating interactive prototypes. Let me show you a finished example of this using a Sketch. So for example, if I press play here, and let me see, I think it's in this one model. Okay. If I press play in this one, let me load. I can press in this icon, and then I can load a different section of the web page to simulate a navigation element. So we can use that for making interactive prototypes, and then we can start making a showcase to a client how the application will work even before starting adding lines of code, because there is nothing more painful for a developer to create an entire system or application showcase to a client, and the client turns out that it wanted something totally different. Everything that you just code goes to waste. But if you can showcase an interactive design beforehand, the client can get feedback. It's way faster to make changes in this stage than to do it in code. So that's why it's so important to start working with the design elements before jumping into the code. So now let's start doing that. So, okay, these are the basic tools of Figma. If you press the letter R, it allows to draw a quick square. And on the right, you can see your properties. For example, this property is for the color, something quite simple. If you have used something called Illustrator or Photoshop, you will feel right at home. If you want to add a line to this element, just press a stroke, and then you can see the thickness around here. And you can start making shapes around here. You want to change the colors, you can just choose the colors around here. Let me move this one here. As you can see that, as I mentioned you in the morning, hex is the default style that we use during for the web development. So this is something that it will be stay at least for the next 10 years. If you want to change the opacity, you can do it here. And you can see that the opacity is different to the opacity of the field. And you can also see that this element has an opacity because the left side of the square is solid and the other right side is semi-transparent. We can do the same here. Okay, so this is the basic manipulation of elements. So with R, you can create squares. With O, you can create circles. With the letter T, you can start creating text, of course, something quite basic. You have your normal alignment, center, left, right. When the text becomes bigger, you can start working around also with the positioning, vertical positioning as well, and horizontal positioning as well. Perfect. This is just the basic manipulation tools. But what we want to do is actually to create a small interactive prototype. So how do we do that? Our first tool, important element, is the frame tool. If I press the frame tool, you will see on the panel on the right, it allows me to create prototypes for multiple devices. So for example, I can choose an iPhone. I can choose tablets, like for example, the iPads. I can choose the desk monitors, laptops, default desktop, generic desktop, an iMac, a Surface for Microsoft, and so on and so forth. You can even create PowerPoint slides around here. You can create for watches, smart watches. You have paper sizes as well, international papers, American papers, newspaper sizes, and so on and so forth. You can even create social media campaigns, like you have a Twitter post, Facebook, Instagram, Dribbble, and so on. Dribbble, by the way, I will show you this one at the very end of this lecture. It's a nice resource for inspiration for graphic design elements. It's super useful if you're a developer that doesn't care about the design. You don't want to learn about design, but you want to make something pretty. It's totally okay. You can just copy designs from other designers and just implement that the visual screenshots into real code. And finally, templates based on Figma, the Figma community, blah blah blah. But let's focus on the iPhone. Let's create something for the iPhone. So this is my screen. Remember, if I press T, you can create a text. So we can say, for example, SDA platform. You can see that the text is moving from the center. So we definitely want to change that. We change to align left. We want to change the font. We can choose any font that we saw during the Google Fonts example in the morning. It can be chosen. So for example, I will use, let me see if I can find Goated A1. Well, we have many fonts. Let's use this one, for example. Don't stretch the font like this. This is for stretching the box. If you want to change the size, you go here. Let's define a size, for example, 26 pixels. Perfect. Then let's create a title. Let's create, for example, educational content. Let's press T and write educational content. And let's align it. And you can see this red line means that we can align to a grid. And we can start using this lateral as well. We can change the colors. And each time that you use the colors, it will starting to be saved here. So for example, we can use this gray color and we can change this font because to be honest, I don't like it. Let me go to Open Sans. Yeah, this is a much better font. Open Sans and press bold, regular bold. And this one can be, for example, light. We can also change the transformation properties similar to CSS. Let me see, for example, light, I think it's in this one. Perfect, yeah. If you want to change the properties similar to CSS, you can press these three dots to open additional menu options and you can change the case. In this case, I can make this one uppercase and change the font size to 24, 21, and we can start designing our stuff. We can align these elements on the grid. For example, if I want to position my elements in a more precise way, I can press the Option key on the keyboard, and it will show me the relative position of this particular element in relation to the canvas. The canvas is this wide area. For example, I want everything is aligned 24 pixels, so I just will move it 24, 24. There you go. And then I can make this one goes in multiple of 8. Because these two elements are related between each other, I will just put it quite close with 8 pixels. Perfect. But now let's start making the icons that we usually have in the home screen. Let's create these icons. And something important, we're gonna create the icon and try to make it a reusable content, just like we can do in Java, in HTML, or even in React that you will learn quite soon. So for example, I can create a box where we're supposed to have an image as by default. We can go to this corner, to inside the corner to modify the radius, and I can start making the round corners. For example, I want to use just 4 pixels, and this is a nice square. Align it as well to this one. We can put in 8 pixels. We can create another subtitle, for example, let's say Program Foundations. And we can decide the size. For example, we can say that the size is 160 pixels and maybe 120. No, it's too much. Let me say 120 and 80. Perfect. Yeah, it looks way better. Align it totally to the size. And yes, this is too big. We need to lower the font size quite a lot, maybe 18. Still too much, maybe just 14. Perfect. And we make the box size the same size for this element because we are going to work with these ones and make changes. So, okay, this is our first element. But instead of changing like this, where I need to copy these elements, and if I decide to make a change, for example, I don't like this font, I want to make it, for example, light, the one on the left doesn't change. So let's make this one a component that when we change it here, we can make multiple copies of this element. How we do that? Quite simple. Let's select these elements.
Barbara,
Yes?
can you take a bit slow because you're pressing buttons that
Okay. Valid,
see?
don't worry. Let's go super slowly. Don't worry, Cecilia. Thank you. By the way, if in any moment I go too fast, please don't be afraid to say so I can go slowly. So, okay.
Sometimes you press buttons that you can't see. We only see your arrow on the screen, so you can't see the buttons that you're pressing.
The button process. Yeah, that's a valid concern. Perfect. So let me go from the beginning and starting by align these elements again. Now I can also introduce the panel on the left. This panel on the left is where all my layers or my graphical elements reside on the screen. So let's start organizing stuff. Let's put this first element on the top by just clicking on the element and drag and drop. This will be my main title, And if we want to start thinking about front-end development and in HTML, we can put in parentheses, and we can start putting the correct HTML tag. This one is the second one, is the subtitle. And we can start thinking about HTML and put the title as well. And this one will be the button label. and this can be the button image. Perfect. We can group these ones together and look at this element in the middle. This says create a component. As you can see, this become purple. It now has this particular icon, and it has these elements grouped together. This is what is a component? Is basically a reusable part of the content on this web page that we can start making copies, and these copies share styles. So let me just showcase this example. If I, for example, insert, I think it's if I place an element, let me see, insert, let me see, insert interactions. Okay, just let me copy it. If I create a copy, perfect. And if I go to the original element, and I remember a tip from last year is my first component, I put it outside the screen. Yeah, let me delete these ones. My original component, I like to put it outside the screen and call it, for example, let's use the real SDA name. This is called the module card. Perfect. And I will rename the elements inside. I don't need to say button image. I just can say image. And I don't need to say button label because it's in relation to this element. And now I can create a copy, grab the copy, put it inside the canvas by just dragging it along until I see the red line. And then I move it on the top until I see again these elements and says that are 8 pixels. And this is the nice trick that we can do. Inside this copy, I can change the word to, for example, program foundation, that's okay. And then I can create another copy, put it here, next to this one. I press the option key to align them. I can say I want to align them 24 pixels, and I can change the name here. For example, let's say software engineering. So far, you will say, what is so important, what is so relevant, but this is where the magic comes. What happens if I don't like this font? I want to change this font, but I don't want to delete these elements and create it all over again. If I go to this label in the master, in the original element, remember, the one that is outside the canvas is my master element. Think as a coder, this will be your equivalent of your, as a class, and this will be your instant element. So this is the real component, and these are just copies. So if I change the font in this one, in the master, it will modify the other elements as well. So for example, if I change for this Nova Mono, you can see that these ones change as well. And I can make this one, for example, write your title here. This will be because my placeholder text, I can write the literal placeholder title, and then change it here to programming foundations, and then I can start making copies of this one I can create copies of, let me delete, I create an image inside the image. There you go. Then I can start making copies of this one as well and put it here for the next modules. So for example, in this one, instead of software engineering, the next one is individual project, and so on and so forth. But we know that this one is not a simple image. It's supposed to be an image. So let's replace this boring rectangle for a real image. I go to this tool, the one here, Shape Tools, and I say place image. Let's find the real image that I used in the SDA. And as I told you during these lectures, you need to be organized. For example, this is my personal Google Drive, my personal Dropbox folder for the SDA, where I have the contents. This contains the solution for the software engineering case study, by the way, and the solution for the group project and the front-end development as well. Of course, I will not open it. But for now, we care about the design folder, where I have my assets, and you can see my illustration for the SDA 9. And everything is correctly named. So I just don't put image 1 JPEG, image ABC JPEG. I take my time to put everything with the correct names, so you can have easy access to everything. So for example, let's use this generic image here, and we'll put it right away here. For example, here it's super big. Let's make it smaller. Let's make it smaller. you press shift if you want to keep the proportion of your image elements. Your image is this element. Yeah, please go ahead, Cosmin. You have a question?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah.
How did you get these pictures? Did you made yourself, or I don't know?
Wonderful question. Let's. Yeah, I was planning to showcase the resources at the end, but it's okay. I don't mind to go in this order. I go to this particular page called icons8.com. Icons8. I think it's called icons8.com. And this one has a lot of resources. And then there is one that's called, you click illustrations and then you go to ouch. And you have this wonderful resources of different graphical styles. Let me see where I can see my styles. I use a particular style called, for example, let me see, it's abstract. So you can see these designs. Yes, you can see the elements that we are using in the SDA. I just change a little bit the colors so they match. For example, this is the purple one for the group project. Instead of being green, I just change it in Photoshop to purple, and so on and so forth. You can use them for free as long as you give them credits. Otherwise, you need to pay for to use them for commercial purposes, just like we do in the SDA. So, okay, let's continue. Inside my module card, I will delete this particular image, gray rectangle, and start using the real this real element. Let's make it smaller, and you can see that in the copies, it's starting to disappear as well. And my element is around here. So let me focus on this one. We say that the width was, let me see, the width was 120. So let me put 120 as well. There you go. And I want them to be perfectly aligned until I see this red line. That means that one is on top of each other. And to make the round corners, I just go to these small dots in the corners and press the mouse until I get, for example, 4 or 8 pixels. 4 pixels looks fine. So yeah, now you can see the images in every single one. And I will go back to my design. It was Open Sans. And let me put it in bold. Perfect. Just put a small enter so they take 2 lines that we can, just like we do it here. And let's see how we can change the image in this particular copy. So for example, if I go to TA1 and I click here, I can see the image. Remember, we are going to change the image in the copy. So inside my copy element, just let me delete it and go again. Remember, my master element, the equivalent of a Java class, is outside the canvas, and inside the canvas, I have my copies. And let's rename my copies so we can have a more organized project. We drag and drop and move to the bottom. This will be IP. This will be SE, your favorite module, by the way, I know. This is Program Foundations, and I will put Program Foundations on the first, Software Engineering second. And then on this one, I expand it by clicking on this small arrow, click on the image, and this image says TA booking. I don't like that generic name. I'm against the generic name. So I will go back here to the main master component and we'll call it image or picture. And now you can see in the copy as well, it's now called picture. And I can click on the right panel where I can see my options, and I can just choose an image. And because my images beforehand were perfectly organized and named, I can find this easily and perfect. I changed this one and doesn't affect the other copies. I can do the same for software engineering. I go to picture and then click on fill, and then go to software engineering. There you go. And then I go to the next element, IP, I click on picture, and then I go to this particular element in the other project. There you go. And if we go back to the finish element, just give me 1 second, I will explain something related to the design systems. Again, the importance of having a design system. Once you decide your colors, you can see that we can play around with the color palette. And you can see, for example, in this one, that the colors are not chosen random. So for example, if we open an element and we open the color palette, you can see on the right, and this works the same in Sketch and in Figma, you can see that the first color in the color harmony is red, so that's why Program Foundation is pink. The second color is orange, that's why software engineering is orange. The next one is yellow, that's why individual project is yellow. The next one is green, that's why programming in depth is green. The next one is cyan, that's why front-end development is cyan. The next one is blue, that's why back-end development is blue. And finally, group project is purple. So that's why the colors feel doesn't feel like are choose at random. They feel like they are part of a harmony. It's because you go to the color scale like that. But don't worry too much about that. That's something that your graphic designers in the company you are working for will take care of that. But in case that you wonder why the images feel like they belong from the same set, it's because I recolor them to follow this particular scale. Because in the website that I show you, every single image was green. So I use Photoshop to modify them to follow this scale. But okay, now we have this particular element, and I will move it until it has 8 pixels. Let's make these elements interactive. So when I click on them, I can go to another screen. So let's create that, shall we? But first, let's rename this canvas. This canvas says iPhone 8, but we know that we don't care about the iPhone. We call this one the homepage of the SDA homepage. And we are thinking, imagine that the SDA platform doesn't exist. Imagine that we are thinking that when you click on this module, you will see the study material. So let's create another element, another frame, iPhone. Let's put it a little bit on the right. And instead of calling it iPhone screen 2 or iPhone screen 1, we're going to rename it to SDA course material, course page. And this in this course page, you know that we have these titles, and we can share the title screen. Let me see if I can do some styling as well here. Just give me 1 second. I know how to do it in Sketch, but I need to remember how to do it in Figma. But in any case, let me see. This is a create component, use mask, create link. No, okay, forget about it. For now, just literally copy. And we can say, for example, the course, let's say software engineering. Yeah, I like you traumatize you on purpose, so that's why I'm choosing this one. I can choose any course, but I choose to use this one as an example. So let me position this one. And to avoid the mistake that I just made, that as soon as you press enter, it misaligned, let me go back. And in this one, let's choose the align to the top. Same with this one, align to the top. And this one as well, align to the top. You can see my mouse on the right panel of the screen, choosing the line. So when I double click on the text and I press enter, it stays on the same height. Remember, I press Option on the keyboard. I think that for the people that are using Windows, it's either Alt or Control, but on Mac, it's Option key. And you will see these red lines with the alignment of 24 pixels. So, okay, we are working now. And we're going to create another component. Remember, this is called components. And we're going to create the component that you see on the SDA platform. Let me go to the SDA platform so we can see the next element that we're going to create. And let me go to front-end development. No, let me go to software engineering and see your beautiful case study. So we're going to create these buttons. So let's create them. Let's go and create a material. For example, we start with a square. We can say zoom in. You can zoom in on a Mac just by pinching your trackpad, or just, let me see, what was the zoom tool here? Honestly, I don't remember the zoom tool here, but just use the trackpad in your laptop. In this case, we are gonna use the size, I think that it was 44 pixels. Yes, 44 pixels. With a corner radius of 8. So like it's super round, perfect. And in Figma, we can create variables also for the colors. So how do we create that? Simple. We can start, remember, when we can create components, we create them outside our canvas. So we're gonna create small circles, any size, but I'm crazy and I need to have perfect sizes, 20. So this one will be our color red. And then we're going to create one for color blue and so on and so forth. So by creating these ones, we're going to create variables. Let's use the color palette of the SDA. So let me close this file. Let me open in Sketch the Pronto design system, where we have the color palette of the SDA is this one. This is the span and the color palette of the SDA 9. I'm gonna take a screenshot. In Mac, to create a screenshot is Command-Shift-4, and it allows me to create a screenshot only this part of the screen. It creates on the bottom corner of my desktop. Now I can copy it, and we color palette. So it's color palette. Let me delete these files. Oh, sorry, let me delete these files. This is some lecture. Oh. And let me copy this file, and we just can literally do Command B on inside Figma, Command B or Control B in Windows to copy this image and use this image for getting the colors. Remember, the colors are something that your graphic designer will give you. And in this case, I click on the fill element. Sorry for this jump. In the fill element, I can use this color picker, this icon, to choose any color on the screen, and then I will create a color. I will do the same for this one. This orange. This is the yellow for IP. There you go. I'm gonna create a green for this green color, and I will create this one for this one. And there are more colors, but we're gonna use this one just for example. We're gonna call this one, for example, color. We're gonna color it red. Let me just zoom a little bit. Red. Double click to change the element. Orange. This will be called yellow, of course. Green. And finally, this is not blue, this is cyan. This is a different color. And if I choose them and press Command G, it will create a small folder. This dotted elements is a folder. Why it doesn't have a folder icon? I don't know. That's Figma again. And I will call this one colors. So these are my color references. Now, by having doing that, I just can go to this one and click on the field. And you can see that my document colors are here. So now I can use any color, and they appear here on in these document colors in the bottom. So it's perfect. And I can even save templates of colors in case I want to work on multiple documents related to a single brand. So in any case, okay, we create this one. Now we're going to create the title, the document element. So for example, let me create, let me say, module description. We're going to create it. We keep open sans, but I don't want to use bold. I will use regular. And I want to say that the font size is, for example, 18. Perfect. And I want that no matter how long the text is always aligned to this element. So I can make the bounding box the same height as this element. And to make it aligned to this element, I press the Option key and I just go to 8 pixels. So perfect. But it's missing something. It's missing the icons. So let's create an icon. And how do we do that? We go to this fantastic resource called fontawesome.com that allows me to download icons from here. So for example, I press start for free. I create an account and they will send me my icons via email. So yes, that means that you need to subscribe to them, but you can unsubscribe and they will not spam you anymore. And I think that you can click and download here as well. So I click download. Looks like yep. I press download again. Yes, this is how you download the files. Perfect. I open the folder that is downloaded, and there is a lot of files, but you focus on the one that says SVGs. This means scalable vector graphics, and the S is for plural. So scalable vector graphics. You open this folder, and you see brands. And this is all your icons for famous brands like Apple, Argolia, that is a search engine, Android, Amazon, AWS, and so on and so forth. But for now, we focus on solid. They are the normal icons that I use. This is the icon that you can always see in our PowerPoint slides, and you can see the SDA platform as well. So for example, the generic icon that I always use for the SDA icons is called File Alt It doesn't appear. Just let me write file. And this is where all the icons appear. So for example, yeah, these are the file icons. And this is the one that I'm looking. It's called file alt. So I just can copy it and press it inside Figma. And Figma understands that this is a vector. Because it's a vector, instead of a plain image, I just can click here and make it white. Perfect. And because this is an icon, I can just call it, for example, icon file alt and making 16 pixels. So for example, 16. Yeah, to avoid that, this distortion, you can click on this broken circle to lock it up. And now when you click the width will be scaled up proportionally. So proportionally. And now you can use it and paste it inside my module description. So I will create a copy and put it right here. It appears on the bottom, so I just need to organize my files a little bit. So this is my module card. This is perfect. I will not touch this one. I can even lock it just to avoid modifying it, so I don't make any mistakes. This is my colors. I will keep it. I will also lock it. This is my element, and just let me remove this one. This is this hashtag icon is a slice. It's just only when you want to export images, but for now, forget about it. We just focus on my icon here. This is my icon copy, and I will just delete the copy as well. And I will only keep this one and put it on top of my rectangle. This will be my background, because this is the background of my visual element. This is my icon. I can make it bigger. Remember, constraint proportions. Now I can make it, for example, 32 pixels. It's too big. Maybe 24. Yeah, 24 is a nice size. Maybe it's still too big. I can just go to 18. And then to align them, I choose both and press this option on the right side panel. And there you go. So this is my icon. This is my background. And this is my module description. I will call this one a label. This is a standard practice. If this is the label, if this is a button, label is literally the text. So this is a common practice. And I can choose the 3 elements and create this icon to create a component. There you go. And I will call this one, I call this one a study material link. Because as you know, this one opens a new tab, are usually files hosted somewhere else. So I call this one a link, as an anchor link. So based on this copy, I just can go here, put it here, and I can say model description is a okay name. And then I can create a copy of this one. This will be my link number 1, link 1. I can create a second link. I can create, for example, let's say case study. Perfect, case study. And then I can create another copy. I can align them. For example, I will say 16 pixels. And then the second copy, I just drag and drop to the bottom, and the machine will be intelligent enough to try to guess that you also want to align them 16 pixels. And I can just, as you can see, I can see the colors of this particular component. So I can change this one from cyan for documents to orange for slides. And this can be the project management, or something like that. And then, of course, with your free time, you can start adding the titles, for example, documents, and then slides, and so on and so forth. So far, so good. I will put this one a little bit on the top with 16 pixels and difference. But now I want to make something cool. I want to make this one an interactive link between this element and this element. So how do I do that? It's simple. Let me just organize a little bit this screen. Remember, put your title on top. And then my first link, my second link, my third link. Perfect. And just like I did with the module card that I was already, I can even say which HTML tags will be used in real life. I can just put them in parentheses, ing. So you will be start thinking about these elements. So for example, which Which tag can be this one in real HTML code? Do you think that have an idea of which one can be this one?
Article.
Yeah, it can be an article. In fact, I really think that I'm using article in the real SDA platform. We can check that after we finish this example. And this one, there is a material link because it's a hyperlink. Which tag do you think there is? Any guess? Is the A tag because it's a link. So you can start playing around with, as you can see, this is using these graphic design tools allows you to start thinking about your tags in HTML. So this will help you a lot in the group project to start organize your code. Even before you're starting to code, you're starting to make the connection between the graphic design and your HTML page. So this is super useful when you reach the group project. So for example, the icon, we saw that it's a spawn based on what we saw in the morning. And this is just a generic, can be a div, for example. And this is just the text inside the A, period. And this can be even, for example, this can be the background of the span. And this is part of the span. This was the I tag in as we saw today. So yeah, there you go. Now let's go back to make an interactive links between this element and this screen. So for example, I click here. We can see that this side panel on the right has 3 tabs: design, prototype, and inspect. The first time that I press prototype, it shows me this is called an onboarding. It's a small tip to learn how to use the tool, because I will teach you how to use the tool. I don't need to go through that. But there is also an inspect element. And this is super cool for developers. Imagine that you're working in your individual project, sorry, in the group project, and you actually take your time to work this first before you start jumping to the code. You can see the perfect sizes, width, height, top, position relation to the screen. But you can see also CSS code. So something to consider by. So for example, you can see the font size, font family, open sans, font style normal, font weight bold, font size 14 pixels, line height. What is the line height? Is the distance between this line and this line, and so on and so forth. Don't trust every single property, but just focus on the most on the major ones, the font size, and so on and so forth. So it can even help you code faster. So making this is not a waste of time. It's actually a nice investment. But forget about the inspect tab and let's go to the thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to create a connection between this element and this element. So how do I do it? Simple. I create a new interaction here. I press the plus sign and I say when I tap is basically when I click, and I can do hover. So for example, if I want to showcase how the button will behave when I pass the mouse over, you can do the hover, but for now, let's focus on the tap. And when I go to tap, I want to go to another screen. So let me do it on tap. And then I click here on tap, I go to navigate to. And because I took the time to put the names. Remember that original this canvas was called iPhone 8, but because I took the time to actually put nice names, I can quickly see that this is the course page. And yes, exactly, this is what I want to do. And you can see this nice arrow between this element and this element. And how do I test that? Now that I create a link, I see display icon like it was a PowerPoint presentation. So I press present. The first time it will say that Safari block a pop-up. You can click on this one to allow the pop-up. And Figma is showing me this beautiful element. And you can see that my mouse becomes this weird element. I can click on any part of the screen and I will get a hint that which parts of the screen are interactive. So I can click on software engineering and it goes back to the module. Perfect. So instead of wasting 2 hours, 10 days or whatever in coding a front-end prototype, or worse, a front-end prototype plus a backend, you can just literally give feedback to the clients or the stakeholders that how your application is going to look like. And we just spend a couple of minutes instead of wasting hours coding, and then the client says, you know what, I don't like this. So I remember a real case based on the SDA that we were showing this element to, for example, the Pronto design. It was this one. We were showing this to Dina how it was supposed to work. She freaked out because there was no workshops. Like we showcase, oh, you have documents, slides, and videos. So this is how your module will look like. And she freaked out, like, oh no, I want workshops. You need to code workshops. She was hysterical. It was amazing. And I was super chill, and I just did Alt, double click, workshop, and I'm painting purple in real time. And she was impressed. She didn't know about this kind of tools. She thought that it would take weeks to develop a new set of icons. Well, not days, but at least hours to code this, because we were about to launch the SDA. She was super panicked about time, but it was super chill. I just did that, and there you go. And then we have the workshops, and now the workshops are purple. This is a true story, by the way. So yeah, this is amazing how much time you can save if you actually embed. You really think that, I know that you are coders and you love to jump into code. As soon as you hear you need to do something, the first instinct that you have is to open Visual Studio Code or IntelliJ and jump and start typing super fast code. But trust me, have the discipline. These elements actually save you time when you work on a bigger projects. Of course, when you are working in a big company, you're probably working with a team, and the design takes care of that. But sometimes you don't have the luxury of having a designer on the team. And in those cases, you need to learn that this is a nice investment. But in any case, we went to this screen, and now we realize something. There is no way to go back. In contrast to the Android platform, iOS doesn't have a back button. So we just discovered that we don't have a functional requirement. The user can click on a back button to go to the main menu. So you can even start discovering functional requirements. And trust me, if you knew about this tool, you will be, the reason that the case study, let me tell, now that you finished the software engineering module, let me tell you a secret. The case study is super easy if you just make a prototype like this. Let me show you. Before we code the platform, we did this. We create this design, then we create this screen, then we iterate with the clients. So we're no ambiguity about, you will see these articles later, I hope so someday. You can see the login screen. So you have no idea how easy it is to make stuff like this. I remember the first time I created this screen, I didn't know about the activation code. And Cici told me that we needed to add an activation code so we can identify students for based on iteration, SDA 7, 8, and 8. So by making this design, we can write the functional requirement. The user needs to type an activation code so we can know for this particular iteration they belong to. So there you go. It's super easy. If you have used a similar tool like this one of Figma, I trust, I will not lie. You can solve the case study in less than 3 days. I know I don't see the webcams right now, but you probably are super angry about that. But this is the truth. You can solve the case study in less than 3 days if you use a graphic design tool. So you can start prototyping, and then you can show the case to the other modules. Hey, this is how the login screen is going to work. And then you're going to say, no, but we need this particular requirement. We may need a checkbox to say if we are going to log in as a user or as an employee or as a customer. And when you log in, imagine that this is your dashboard. And when you click on this one, instead of going to the course, you can go to the, let me even use the real colors. If you click on the orange, you go to the call handling system, and you can go to a different screen, for example, to this screen for the call handle system. But if you are a technical employee, you can click on this one, the purple, and then you will go to the technical man and to the project manager module, blah, blah, blah. Or if you click on the blue one, you will go, for example, to the warehouse. So where you can buy this printer, or you can buy this box, or you can buy this laptop, or you can buy this button, or you can buy this smartwatch, or you can buy this equipment, or you can buy these cables, and so on and so forth. So you can see how easy it is to solve the case study if you take your time to make a visual prototype. A visual prototype will allow you to discover missing requirements. And in the old example, sorry, this, I don't know why I got a notification. Let me close this one. this activation code was a missing requirement in the first prototype, but it was so easy to add it before we code it, and because we catch it on the design stage before we add lines of code, we were thinking, okay, we need to create a code for an if statement, what in case that the user make an activation code. And I think that I told you during the optional lectures on software engineering, I told you that there was a previous platform. The previous platform had a bug, a super nasty bug, that if you type the activation code wrong, but you put your email, it will be created an account in the database, but because you type the activation code wrong, you cannot access it. And when you type the activation code for a second time, it will throw an unknown error. It just crashed. And what was the problem? The problem was that inside the database, there was already an account with your email. So that means that you needed to create a new account with a different email, but it will never say, we are so sorry, we create the account with the name, for example, Eduardo at KTH already exists, you need to create a new email. No, it didn't say that. It just crashed the application, and it was super hard to debug and for the students to discover what was the problem. But because Cici told me that we need an activation code, at the beginning, if she's still here, you can ask her. I really didn't want to add an activation code. For me, it was useless, but she took the time to explain me as a client, as a customer. She explained me what is so important. Then I decided to put it, and then I took into consideration, okay, we need to create a test cases, software engineering, remember, what happens when I put the activation code wrong? It means that I should not create a user account until I validate on the client that the activation code is valid before I try to create the database. Otherwise, we'll be having problems. So as you can see, how we can connect graphic design with project management. And the test case studies that we were mentioning in software engineering has a direct correlation with front-end development. So you learn software engineering for some reason, and it's not in waste, it's because of this kind of stuff. And as again, creating designs can help you catch functional requirements that are missing early on before you commit to your code. But let's go back again. We discovered that we need a functional requirement, a back button. So let's create a back button right away. So we're gonna use the text tool. Remember, because we want to use probably this back button is used in every single page of the SDA application. We are gonna create a generic button. So I will go with my square. I will go to the design tab. Remember, if you cannot see the design options, it's because you are probably in the prototype tab. You go back to the design tab. We're going to use the correct color of the SDA blue. So this is the brand color of the SDA, the blue. And as you can see, Figma and Sketch are quite similar. So this is the color. Let me copy it. Oh, okay. Forget about it. I will copy from somebody else. I have another file just for that. Let me open this one, the design system. And I have my color palette all around here. So now I can copy from here. So I copy the hexadecimal value. I put it here. But I want to be organized. I will not put the color directly on the button. I will take my time to be organized, as I told you. I need to preach whatever I say. So I will put this one. I will remove this pack lock. I will just put it nicely here. Put the pack lock again. No, I need to open this one, and I will create a copy of red. No, sorry, of the last color. Let me put this one here. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan. I will create a copy of cyan, and I will put it on the on the right. I don't know what I created around here, to be honest. This is a weird behavior. This should not happen at all. But in any case, I will put it here, and I will drag my mouse to the right until it says that it is the same position than the other ones. Put the bottom, I will say blue, and then I will copy this hexadecimal value and I will put it here. Perfect, this is my blue, perfect. Now I can go back to my button, and my button I will put it with a height of 44 pixels. I will make a run, I will just zoom in. If you don't see the small circles for making the random corner, just zoom in until you see the option, and then choose either 4 or 8. I will go with 4, and press the fill element, and we'll go with this one. And then I will press the T on the keyboard to write label or button label. Button label. Perfect. I will choose it. I will move it on the center, and I can see that I can align the elements. There you go. I will make this one in white. White in hexadecimal is triple F. A nice trick. And I will say that it will be perfectly aligned in the horizontal axis and in the vertical axis as well. I will choose these two elements. I will choose these two elements and I will create a component. And you probably guess that this component will be called button. And in HTML, it's called button as well. So this is a button. I will put it on the board here. I will put it right below my study material. I will create a copy. Oh, by the way, in the SDA platform, the button is not bold. I will say this one is the label. Let's be organized. And this is the background. There you go. And my text is not bold, it's regular. There you go. Looks way better now. I will copy it. I will put it here. I click on this one. Command B to paste it, and it will always appear in the middle of the canvas. And I want to move it to the bottom, but I want to keep the same distance like this one has. So it's 24. So I will put it 24 in the bottom. There you go. And I will say, I will double click. I will put it on the bottom as well here. And because this is not a component, but the instance, I will say that this button will call go back. And I will double click inside this one and write go back. And then I choose this one, click, prototype, interactions. I will say on tab is on click, and I will click on the options and I will say back. What is the difference between navigate on or back, or why in this one I use navigate and in this one I use back? The answer is quite simple. Figma and Sketch and Adobe XD are intelligent enough to understand that no matter in which screen from which screen I came, this will literally go back to the previous screen. So it doesn't matter if I have 10 screens, I don't need to hard code to say you need to go to this particular screen. This button will be smart enough to go to whatever screen was the previous one. So let's test this out and press play. This always goes to a new window. In Safari, just press Windows, merge windows, and you can see your tools. And this was the previous example. This is the previous example. I can press back and navigate back and forth between elements. So there you go. And then it's just about creating more screens, more icons, more elements. Let me merge the windows as well. Learning management system. So yeah, and as you can see, and then you will need to create one component. For example, you create one component for the forms. You can see that this is a component. It's called input desktop. So you can see, for example, now we are opening the gates for the SDA. Let me showcase all the symbols that we have for the SDA platform. So it's super crazy. We have buttons disabled. We have inputs for desktops, and we have the inputs for mobile. I teach you today how to make a UCSS to make an element behave differently based on the screen size. So we code in HTML this size, and using media query, I can make it the button longer and a little bit thinner. And you may ask why the desktop version is thinner than the mobile version. And the answer is quite simple. On mobile, I use my chubby fingers to interact, and the fingers are not precise enough. So you need to make your click areas a little bit bigger. But on a desktop, you either have a touchpad or a mouse. They are super precise. Thus, you can make your elements on the screen smaller, and they will be precise enough without any issues. Again, you can see that on the mobile, the button is the same height, but this is a little bit wider on purpose, and so on and so forth. And then this is the program foundation. This is the lock one, and this is the unlock one. This is the mobile version and the desktop version. This is the material link on desktop and on mobile, and so on and so forth. You can see the titles, and then the title can change the color as well. And so on. This is the title on mobile. This is the title on desktop. And this is the icons on the mobile version. This is the navigation bar, and so on and so forth. And this is every single icon that you can see on the platform. There you go. And the logo, and so on and so forth. So yeah, this just takes a couple of days to design. Now that we finished the core, the part of the tool, the question is, the will arise, but I am a developer, Eduardo. I am not a graphic designer. So how the hell I will be able to create this kind of stuff? Well, to be honest, I didn't create this design system from thin air. To be honest, I just do what every single designer do, just copy stuff from somebody else. So in this example, I will go to my SDA folder. You can see that I'm inside the SDA folder. And last year, we were talking about create a design system. And we were talking about the possibilities to create a design system. So I decided to create one design system called Pronto. As you can see, I started to navigate between multiple web pages, and I see these colors, black and blue, this dark, super energy blue. So I started to see designs from somebody else, and I started to create what is called a mood board. A mood board is a collection of elements. So I took a screenshot from here, a screenshot from here. This looks quite similar to the landing page, well, a little bit, and so on and so forth. And then you start thinking about how to implement the stuff. So, and where do you find these images? This is the website I was speaking about. Let's go to a website called dribble.com. And I think that when you were making, speaking about making your CVs, oh, sorry, this is not the correct website. Just let me Google it. Google Dribble. They will correct me. Yeah, this one. Discover the top world designers are creative people. So you can see designs. So you can write a color, for example, a color, search for blue. I will show you designs that are related to the color blue. You can write, for example, a cupcake. And you can see designs related to cupcakes. This is beautiful. This is super nice as well. And you can click it for more details. It will ask you to log in. Create an account is totally free. So you can see all the details, designs in details. You can see this one looks super professional, because this one looks like it was made by a 16-year-old girl. This one looks like make it for a real person for a real business. So you can check designs, but maybe you like this one. And if you make a design like that, don't worry, I will not judge it by the color palette. I will judge it by how cool you manage to make the design close to the source material. So yeah, you can do that without any problems. So perfect. So this is how you work, your design process. Now let me open a PowerPoint slides for the very first time in this one. So this is the design process when you want to work on a real project. Step number 1, let me add a new slide. Oh, sorry, not this one with title. So first, is understand the project, what it's about, speak with the client. Then is create a quick prototype, In fact, you can start making a prototype, an ugly prototype. Let me just switch for Sketch because I'm way faster in Sketch. I press the tool A, I can create an iPhone. And instead of wasting your time choosing the color palette, etc., you just can create a gray rectangle, write programming foundations with any font, programming foundations, and start making it a quick and dirty black and white design, just like the one that we showed to case today. That's why I was making a gray rectangle in the beginning. I actually skipped this step and I went for the full quality design. So now, to be honest, you start with a low quality prototype because it's way faster. You can gather feedback from your client. You can even communicate, and this is super important. Sometimes you have an idea in their mind how the application should work, and you explain it to your teams, and your teammates say, yes, I understand. But when you start to making questions to them, you can see that everybody has something different in their mind. Remember the example that Dina showcased about the tree? That sometimes people put a tire over there, people put different wood elements and so on and so forth. So everybody has something different in their mind. But if you can actually draw it on the screen, people will be able to be on the same page. And if they have a disagreement, you can reach a consensus until everybody says, you know what, this is how the app will behave before we start moving to the graphic design part. So first, raise your hand. Of course, Cosmin, go ahead.
So is the graphic designer also in the agile team, works with Scrum and with that
Yes,
everything?
in the top companies, everybody's involved. In all school companies, is a waterfall approach where first there is managers talking between each other, and the developer doesn't even know that it's going to be a new project in the company, and the managers are setting on the budgets, the expectations, and blah blah blah, and they move to speak to the graphic designer, and they explain them wonderful idea. The graphic designers make this prototype, then they send it to the coders, and then the coders, maybe 3 months in, they discover, oh, there is a new project in the company, and they start to make the code. And as you can probably think, this is the disaster projects that Dina were speaking about. In an agile environment, the client, the managers, the designers, and the developers collaborate and try to make a quick and dirty prototype. And everybody has an opinion to reach this first. And this is your first sprint, by the way. Your first sprint is to create this prototype, interactive prototype. Let me just create this one. And let me create this one, quite dirty. So you can see how fast it's work like this. And this is the link one, and there you go, link 2, link 3. And this stage, you don't even need to say link 1, link 2, just say link, and people is smart enough to understand what is this about. And if they not, this is the perfect moment to ask questions. And then you can create an element, and you can create a prototype, and you go to this screen, and then, oh, we find the same mistake that we did the last time. We need to add a go back. There you go. Because we are in a quick and dirty stage, we just create an interaction, prototyping, sorry, go back. Yeah, go ahead, ask a question. I know that I'm in a different tool. I'm just doing this to make the conversation faster, but it's the same as Figma. We already saw this example in Figma. So go ahead and ask me the question. So yeah, go back. And there you go. And you can see that you can, both in Figma and Sketch, you can actually decide how the animation goes. For example, this one will go from here, and this one will go from here. So now I can polish my interaction and lose a little bit smoother. So I go here and here. Perfect. So what was the question, Sujan? You asked a question.
If you have something that you want to scroll down, how do you do it when you have it on like iPhone platform? You know, if you expect to scroll down.
Good question. Let's do that example, shall we? Good question. I like this kind of questions. Perfect. So okay, let's do that. I just extend my canvas. I go to design. I hold the shift key. Sorry, no, this will be proportional. Sorry, Control C, Command C, and I will just increase the height. Maybe sometimes I can even do a trick like multiply sign times 2, and it will become way longer. And we will make this one go back. And I will try to make one step ahead and we'll make another trick. I will try to make the go back button stays in place. So I will add a white box behind the button. Nice question. Thank you so much. I really like this question. So I will call this. How do we call this one? I want to see if you are aligned with the classes that we got today. How will we call this element?
I think it's a footer.
Nice. Footer. And this is my correct tag. So remember, the name on the left is my context name, my human name, and the one on the right is my code name. Sometimes are the same, sometimes they are not. So I will make this one white. Shortcut for white is F. And I will align these buttons to the middle. Sorry, to the middle with this element. There you go. I will group it. And this is actually the footer, sorry, footer. The element that was on behind is just a background. There you go. And if I click on this one, when I go to, I think it's when I go to prototype, this, let me see if I say inspect, there was a way to actually tell this machine to make this one stay in place. So let me see prototype prototype settings. Device, no, inspect, design, and no. Let me go to this one. But let me just say Figma fixed element position, fixed position when scrolling. There you go. And let me see how we do it. You can see that it's directly in the Figma documentation. So let me see, horizontal, vertical. In the prototype, there is of the overflow behavior. So let me see. Go to prototype, interactions, maybe the interactions. Overflow, no. On drag, and no. Interactions, inspect. So let me see how to do it. Running prototype, remove a connection. No, it's in the link element. Let me interactions, direct the connection, running your prototype, spec. No, let me go to select the frame in the canvas. The frame in the canvas, open the prototype, update the overflow, choose from no scrolling, and bounce to the frame. Okay, let me, I cannot find it. I did it last year. Okay. Prototype settings. Maybe it's this one. Goal, device, homepage, start frame. This is the general settings. No. This is this one. I choose footer. Maybe I need to create a component for this one. Yeah, I need to create a component. Okay, I need to create a component. So this one needs to be a component. So I will cancel the group by pressing Command Shift G to cancel my group, and I will create a new component, and this component will be called footer. Footer. Okay, this is a difference between Sketch and Figma. In Sketch, I don't need to create a component to have my prototype overflow behavior, and I will say. I think it's not scrolling or vertical scrolling. I think it's vertical scrolling. Let's test it out and let's make a lot of copies of this element. And to create more copies is Command D, and the machine will be intelligent enough to do this. Perfect. So let me, and most importantly, to avoid the scrolling, I think I need to put it here. Yeah, I need to put my footer like on top. So this will be aligned to this one. And now, why? Because it means that this will not move while I will scroll. So let's test it out. Let's see if it works. That's a beautiful question, Sujan. Thank you so much. So yeah, it didn't work. Let me go back, merge. But yeah, this was the option. It's just, I just need to choose the correct, maybe no scrolling. Press again, play, it reload the page. And nope. So let me go this one, or maybe I need to put it here. Press play. So okay, we're gonna play around until we. Yeah, no, this one is not working. So yeah, in Sketch I know how to do it, but just let me one more try. Otherwise, I will send you the link to how to do it. If I cannot find it, horizontal, vertical scrolling. It's supposed to be this one. I get a warning sign. For scrolling the work with this frame, the content needs to be bigger. The content, oh, okay, my bad. Okay, now I understand the difference. The frame needs to be of the same size. Perfect. Just let me change the size. The frame needs to be, let me go to design. The height is 6667. I need to make this one 6667. So now, and you can see that there's content on the bottom. There you go. I will align it to the bottom center. And now I can go to prototype and no scrolling. So now, if I reload the page, please don't make me look back. No, this is the no scrolling is for the vertical scrolling. And now one more time. If not, I will give you a link later. Yeah, let me go back. Yeah, well, no, I will tell you later. Yeah, to be honest, I don't remember how to do it in Figma. But it's around this part, is the overflow behavior. I can even share the link once I fix the exercise. But in any case, let me go back. And sorry for this one. I will find it and send you the option later. But just to avoid making this one another 2-hour lesson, the steps in Agile front-end development, Agile front-end project, will be understand the project first, create a prototype, then create a high resolution design prototype, high resolution prototype. Remember, the quick prototype is or called low res, create a low res resolution prototype. This is your low res prototype, and this one is your high res prototype. So first go this, then this, and then you go to the code the project. So this is how you do it. And when you want to go to this stage can be further subdivided in it's called mood board. Mood board is when you gather these pictures that I show you in this element. When you gather all these pictures, so you can get a look and feel that what is your inspiration for the design, and then you can start making the design system, create the design system. And once you finish creating the design system, you cannot escape this in any part of your career from now on. Documentation. And what is the documentation in this context of graphic design? It's called the brand Bible, where you tell your entire team that these are the colors that we're going to use, these are the icons that we're going to use, this is the illustration style that we're going to use, these are the fonts that we're going to use, these are the fonts for my titles, these are my fonts for the text, a couple of indications of how to use the fonts and so on and so forth, the use for the logotype and so on. So this is documentation. So as you can see, everything is interconnected, and this is how you work. And then you start coding the project. And in the project, you will know the process. I will not repeat this one. You start creating the code, the documentation, unit testings, and so on and so forth. So yeah, this is pretty much it. I will stop sharing the screen. And questions, if there is any. This is the time to have a nice conversation. I will start reading the chat, but go ahead and Photoshop is an alternative to Figma. There are different tools. Photoshop is for photo image manipulation. What are the tools that you are missing in Photoshop? It's quite simple. You lose the ability to create components. I know that I'm not sharing the screen, but but you remember the components that we create in Figma, the ones that were outside the screen. You cannot create components, and you cannot make these links, prototype interaction links. So you are missing the biggest use from the prototyping tools. So yeah, you can make something beautiful, but it will not be interactive.
I saw in the announcements that there are a lot of Photoshop requests, so that's why I was asking. I was wondering why. So Photoshop is so complex and so difficult.
It's basically the right tool for the right job. Just as I told you in front-end development, never use word processing for organizing your documents. Now we are in total confidence. The things that make the best tables were the things that had the best projects. Because when you organize everything in project management, when you organize everything in tables instead of Word documents, you can structure your information in a super strict way, and you can start see the gaps in the project. So same thing, the right tool for the right job. You can make a beautiful design in Photoshop, no questions asked, but it will never be interactive because you literally lack the tools. So use the right tool for the right job. You want to make for example, to change the color of the images that I download from the internet, indeed, I use Photoshop to change the color because I cannot change the color in Figma for a photograph. But I just exported the background picture in Photoshop with the new colors and then imported to Figma. In this case, I use a sketch. So yeah, that will be the question. Similar to FreakPic, just that's another resource. This is a rainbow, but it's not a bad rainbow. It's a nice rainbow because it has a nice scale, color scale. Sorry, I missed one. Where do you have to download the icons? It's called Font Awesome Icons. Let me share right away. Awesome.com. So this is your question, Yawishira. Oh yeah, somebody wrote already. Cool. The background, the icons for the main page of the SDA from icons 8, and then the small icons, the ones that are single color icons, Font Awesome. Then good, amazing, blah, 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 is I like this. When you're a front-end developer in a company, you do this part of UX or the UI people? Good question, Marta. Big teams has their own UX designers on board. Smaller companies, startups especially, some people need to duplicate work. So the front-end developer is also the UX designer, like in my case here in the SDA. But as I told you at the very beginning, I really wish to show you the case study that you need to do the next week, but I cannot showcase the answers. But try to remember what I'm trying to say. If you showcase to the recruiters not only a working React project, but a beautiful React project, you will be on the top of the list. Remember, you are not the only one. You are not the only one apply for a job. So let's say that we have a pyramid. From the bottom, the worst developers, in the middle, the average developers, in the top, good developers, and in the top of the pyramid, the people that actually will get the job offers, maybe 2 or 3, they will get the actual offer, and if they accept the salary, they are the ones that get hired. The ones in the bottom of the pyramid are the ones that get a case study, for example, create a to-do list, and they don't finish it. They will totally be discarded. The next tier, in the middle, are the ones that finish the to-do list. It works. The recruiter can open the app and start using the to-do list. But once the recruiter that also knows a little bit about coding, is probably an ex-developer that decides to become a human resource manager, see your code and see that your code is a mess, you stay you stay here in the race. The people with a really nice code structure move to the next step of the pyramid. That are the top tier, almost in the top tier. They are the good with the good project management. But if we are talking about at least in the front end work, graphical user interfaces, the ones that the project not also works, not also is well code behind the scenes, but is visually pleasing, these are the ones that get the job offer. So if you, as a rookie, do you want to beat Chalmers computer science students? Do you want to beat a KTH student that has 5 years of computer science experience? You can beat them if you not only organize your code, but you go to the extra mile, learn a little bit about user interface design. And this is super cool. KTH students, and there we have TS right now in the screen. Felix, do you get a mandatory courses in UX design in computer science in KTH? No.
One.
Mandatory.
One mandatory.
Okay.
But it was like
average. Can you hear Felix in the microphone? Yes or no, guys?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can see
He doesn't like it.
number 1 doesn't like it. Number 2, the teachers in KTH literally, even if it's mandatory, they treat it as a filler course. They don't give a shit about that.
it was like one of the most relaxed courses ever.
You can hear. So this is your opportunity as a junior developer outside of a computer science course to move from the bottom of the pyramid and go directly to the top. If you invest in these kinds of skills, you will highlight. But of course, if you create shitty code, but he has a beautiful design, it will, will not get hired. You need to make a good code and also go the extra mile. And this is how you can match or even be on the same level as 5 years computer science students from KTH. And the proof is that I got offers from Instabots. I got offers from, I actually accepted a company, work offer in a game company in Malmo. I got this one from Glomo and so on and so forth here in Sweden. So it's possible. And I am a graphic designer. So there is no excuse. I don't say that you don't need the 5 years in computer science, but what I'm trying to say is that you can learn other skills on your own and you can bring something else on the table and it will be appreciated by the recruiters. See ya. Okay, nice, cool. And so this is why I recommend that invest your time in learning this. Remember, you are having a bootcamp of 16 weeks competing against students that have 5 years in computer science. So you cannot compete on the same terms. You need to bring something else. And you can hear that the user design as a front-end developer can be your secret ace under the sleeve to try to close the gap. So more questions? Is my girlfriend asks, is this great and where is crazy due? Okay, perfect. Nice for her. Nice question. What do you think about Webflow? I recommend this to my non-coder friends when they want to dip a little bit. Sorry, to my graphic design friends that wants to make a website a little bit more complex than a template tool like WordPress or something like Squarespace. I have recommended to a couple of friends, and with a couple of classes, maybe 1 or 2 hours, they will be able to make a small website without any issues. but you are developers. You can go to the extra mile and code it by hand. Figma is a nice tool. It's popular and widely used among front-end developers. The answer is 100% yes. And the market share is divided between 3 tools. Number 1, Figma, almost commanding 0.5% of the market share. Why? Because it works, because it's a web application, works on Linux and Windows and Mac and so on and so forth. Then the next 40% use this tool called Sketch. And let me share the screen right away. And as you can see, I don't use a Sketch I don't use Figma. I can teach in Figma, but I make my real projects for my real clients in Sketch. Why? Because I prefer to use Sketch. I feel more comfortable using this tool. Has better performance, is native, blah, blah, blah. So the next 40% is a Sketch. And the last 10% is a tool from Adobe called Adobe XD. So yeah. And remember, Figma is excellent. I just use Sketch because number 1, I used to that one because I'm being a front-end developer for more than 10 years. So I already work for clients for real money. So if you tell me on the rank, let's use a quick comparison. My bias comparison between Figma and Sketch. On the left, Figma is free. Another advantage is that it works on Linux. My advantage on Sketch on the right, let's say we're talking about the pros. Better performance. Now let's speak about the cons. Figma has a lower performance. I don't say that it's slow, but during this workshop, we saw a couple of glitches happening here and here that doesn't happen never in Sketch. Let's speak about the cons of Sketch. It doesn't work on Linux. To be honest, I don't care about that because I don't use Linux, I use Mac. Another con is paid, it costs $100. But as I told you, for me, that con for me is irrelevant. Why? Because I charge money for this project. So I don't feel bad to spend $100 when I bought the application once, just once, because if I can charge a client X amount of money, I will not say the Swedish crown in Ecuador, I could charge for a small website like the one that you're going to start doing tomorrow. I can charge for more than $1,000 and maybe $2,000, even to $3,000 if the client is a company. And you can charge even more for Television Central. I charge a lot of money for that corporate website, but it was more running the entire department plus a free website inside that contract. So yeah, $100 for a paid project for me is no cons. So for me, I don't see any cons. I don't see advantages on Figma because for me, free is not an advantage if I am charging real money to a customer. For me, maybe you say no, I want to save this $100 because I can use it in anything. It's your decision and I respect that. But for me, it's a non-issue. And the issue that I cannot run it on Linux or in Linux, I don't use those systems anyway. So for me, it's smooth. So that's why I prefer Sketch. But I don't say that Figma is bad. It's just that the cons of Sketch for me are irrelevant. For me, the pluses of Sketch, there is a native app that has a better performance. For just $100, for me, it's a nice deal. You need to invest money to make money. So yeah, that's it. But Figma is a good tool. Sorry, what?
Probably I can Google, but since you are here, Sketch is only for Mac, or I can use it for Windows.
Only for Mac, and that's why that's why it has a beautiful performance. This is where we can speak about this a little bit about optional technologies. By the way, at this point, if somebody wants to drop out because it's late, just go on. I don't feel bad about the optional lectures people dropping out in any moment. But this is the moment that we can have a conversation to learn about the industry as a front-end developer, not as a back-end developer, because that's not my expertise. So yeah, let me open the Sketch website right away, and let me showcase the advantages of using Sketch. Sketch, and so for example, let me write this one. Advantages, everybody in sync, bring together ideas, and let me see if I can see for designers. Blah, blah, blah. It's a beautiful website. You can see the component systems. This system is, just by checking this web page, you can learn a lot of graphic design. Native. Sketch for the Mac is a fully native experience. What I mean by that is that the design works and behaves like a native Mac app because it's a native Mac app. So what is the advantage? So for example, if you activate your dark mode, your app will become enter dark mode automatically, like this screenshot. I don't like dark mode, so I always keep it the light theme. But in macOS, you can see that the wallpaper is synced to the clock. So the wallpaper from the mountains that becomes darker when the time passes, and you can make that the entire interface becomes darker in the night as well. I deactivated, but you can have that. You have touch support. It works for retina displays. It has an amazing performance. So yeah, this is the advantage of working on native apps. It's beautiful. So you can feel the performance. You really can feel the performance. And there is another tool. Let me call. You can make questions while I speak. What is this cool tool called? Oh, I have it installed as a trial. It's called Pixelmator Pro. Pixelmator. I don't know if you follow the news of this new processor for Apple, but for example, this one has an amazing advantage over a this one. This element. Let me open the Apple page, the real Apple page, apple.com. Let me open the new Macs. Let me see learn more about the M1 chip. I'm sharing the screen, yes or no? Yes, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go super off topic, but there is a reason for this. Okay, the new Apple processors in the new computers that were launched at the end of last year has a machine, has a new inside the chip has a new element for the machine learning. The web cannot cannot access this element because the web browser only has access to the normal CPU. Inside the canvas element that we mentioned yesterday has access to the GPU. Let me see if I can see the GPU draw in the. Oh yeah, we can see this is the GPU. This is this is the CPU. This is the GPU. I can see a better diagram here. So this is the chip, the new Apple chip. The web page JavaScript runs in the GPU, in the CPU. Sorry, CPU. The canvas element runs on the GPU. But the web cannot still access the neural engine because normal computers don't have neural engines. This is something that Apple mobile phones have. This is the first time that we have something like this in the desktop. So, a web application cannot access the neural engine because the web browser doesn't know that something called a neural engine exists inside the CPUs. But because Pixelmator Pro is a native Mac app, this application already has access to this neural chip and can run a machine learning algorithms to make the like the CSI's TV drama enhance. We can start reaching to this point of crazy superpowers because we have a new element in the CPU called the neural chip, the neural cores. Figma doesn't have access to this one. Sketch doesn't use yet, but if Sketch wants to actually do it, they can because this is a native app. Figma, if they want to do that, they cannot do it because the browser doesn't know how to access a neural engine. And they need to wait at least 3 to 5 years until Windows and Linux has chips like from Intel, from AMD that also start to incorporate neural engines. So the browsers can start coding, oh, we're going to create a new canvas element like a super canvas, and the super canvas can access the neural engines as well. Then in 5 years, Figma will be as powerful as Pixelmator Pro. So you can see how behind the web in comparison to web apps, to native apps. So that's why I prefer Figma. And that's, sorry, Sketch. And that's when you can see that these $99 are nothing due to the increase of performance. So, okay, any other question? What is my secret for energy? I'm hyperactive. It's just, plus I took 2 coffees today. Yeah, it's literally, I'm hyperactive. It's a mental disorder. So I need to code or design like crazy to burn down the energy. So I was a crazy kid when I was playing soccer. Even if I was super bad, I was running from all parts of the field until I get tired. So now I channel my energy coding or teaching and so on and so forth. So, okay, I see that there's less people. One more, I can take two more questions before we drop out. So let me read the contents. How do you show part how do you show the part that you know how to use Sketch to the companies in the portfolio? Because I always see that you show the final result. Okay, good question. Let me show you the El Noticiero by a designer that I work with one. El Noticiero. Let me see, Andrea Reynoso. Behance, perfect. Let me see. This I worked with this designer, an amazing designer.
You're not sharing.
We are not
screen,
sure. Yeah.
Let me find the document first. Give me a second. No, I make a mistake. I make a mistake. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. Let me share the screen. So, okay, let me see if I find her work for El Noticiero, Micrositio, El Test de Televisión, Enable All, blah, blah, blah. Let me see. Oh, she's amazing. This is one for the error pages. She has the same personality as me. She creates a document in Behance, and this is how you showcase your portfolio to a client. These are the error pages. On our website, I swear that we create this. We create an error page with all of these designs for this web page of El Noticiero. That was 4 intense months of working all day, all night for that particular project. Let me see. Oh, this is this says redesign web page El Noticiero. So let's click on this one. So this was the old logo, and we modernized it. This is a color palette. I show you this one on Figma. Remember these crazy colors? I am not the only one that do this. She created the icons. Oh, too bad that it doesn't load. This was the old page, and now this is a new page. She used the icons as well, and you can see the new page. So this is how you create the design. And this is the mockup. This is our low fidelity prototype. And we show this to the news director in Ecuador. We showcase this one, and we created categories. And the categories, these categories were the ones that we were working with them. So we didn't spend our time creating this design and then showcase the client, hey, this is the new redesign. You never do that. That's career suicide. You work with the low prototype, and then we create the suggestion for the categories. And as soon as we showcase the low resolution prototype, he said, you know what, we need this. Oh, I know that are Spanish. This is tabloids, sports, entertainment, politics, economics, technology, society. And he says, I want that when you click on here, you can filter them by national or international. That was a suggestion for the client. So we added, before we started to code, so we add a property for how to filter the information. I think that somebody asked me about what is the filter function in JavaScript 4. You can filter news by national or international news. And you can see the low resolution prototype. This is how the website was built. And then this is how you show the real website. It was wonderful. This project was amazing. We went from the position 167 in Ecuador to the top 8. We had the outer spaces filled all the time. And we even have a widget for Twitter. Really nice project. So yeah, that's how we present the things that. And then last question. Oh, you can make more questions. I can stay here. Woof. I have one coffee. I think I have energy for 1 more hour, but it's you, the guys that are tired, not me. I don't need to do the homework for the CV. You need to do it. So I will take one more question beside the ones in the chat. And how do you showcase the part of the? Oh yeah, I already answered this one. So I will take one more question.
Eduardo,
Yeah.
in your experience,
Yes.
how much emphasis do companies place on accessibility? So thinking about like the color contrast and making sure there's always alternative text, and how is that enforced?
Beautiful question. And the answer is 5 years ago, not much. Now it does. In fact, now we have 2 different careers. 10 years ago, let's go back in time. 10 years ago, there was one person that takes care about all this stuff called the graphical designer. Now the graphical designer has split into UI designer and UX designer. There are 2 different careers. Some people study both. For example, I am not a UX designer, I am a UI designer. What is the difference between the UI and the UX? The UI is user interface designer, is the one that creates all these crazy elements on the screen, these small buttons. Let me go to the symbols. Sorry for this one. Symbols, create these buttons. This is the user interface elements. This is the role of UA designer. And the role of the UX is the one that makes the research. In this case, the research was speaking about this, the news director in Ecuador, and asking what are the best categories. And we also did a research by analyzing the traffic data from the old website, and see that we discovered the official contract was redesign the web page for the entire Televisión Central company page, the entire page, not only the news show. But we discovered that more than 80% of the, more than 67% of the traffic was only for news, and around 80% was mobile. So we went mobile first, one of the first in Ecuador, and we decided to, instead of making the redesign of the entire web page, company page, we focus on the news sites first. So this is user research, user experience, but we need to go one level deep in user experience, and we need to do interviews with real users, do this quick test. And there is a lot of process, and because I am not a user experience designer, I cannot go into that, because I am not that versed into that. But it's all about the customer journey, interview users, and UX designers need to learn the very basics of Figma to just make the black and white prototypes. And then they can make suggestions to the user interface, and they can make the beautiful designs, the prototypes, blah, 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 blah. So that's why the UX designer and the UX designer are so similar that in bigger companies, there's different roles. In the smaller startups, our UX and UI are a single one. And even in smaller startups, the UI, UX, and front-end developer are the same role. And even in smaller companies, the UI, UX, front-end, and back-end developer are the same. Don't never work on those companies. Those companies sucks. But I hope that answered the question. I cannot go into depth because unfortunately I am not an expert in UX, but I can share you links later. Don't worry about that. Any more questions? 3, 2, 1, 0. So, okay, that will be it for today. Thank you so much for having the patience to having almost 2 hours again.
Thank you very much.
So
Thank
see you tomorrow. Yeah, I will upload the video tonight. So see ya. Bye.
Thanks a lot, Eduardo. It was
tomorrow.
really good.
Thank you, Gerardo.
Evening,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Bye. Good night.